could have the 3131 again over the shoulder here.
Beckett himself wants it very much to be a documentation, as he always says, of his work. And we try to go on this razor's edge, of course, to follow his choreography with the camera and not to make a piece of cinema out of it. We try very much to put across his basic idea about the play.
This book, Walter Asmus has been carrying around with him for years as he's worked very closely with Beckett. Walter's copy of the text is an archaeological dig. There's layer after layer after layer of things that have been put in, have been taken out, tried in action. If they work on the stage, then fine. So that, for instance, Beckett would say, saying, okay, we need to see the front of the head here. And so Walter would jot it down. The actor would be told, you need to turn in this direction at this moment. And so everything in here is a reflection precisely of what Beckett wants to see.
I'm going back to my desk.
Okay. So this was worthwhile to have done it again. Okay. So what do we do? What do we do?
Nothing to be done.
I'm beginning to come round to that opinion. All my life, I've tried to put it from me, saying, Vladimir, be reasonable. You haven't yet tried everything. And I resume the struggle. So there you are again.
Am I?
I'm glad to see you back. I thought you were gone forever.
Me too.
Together again at last. We'll have to celebrate this. But how? Get up till I embrace you.
Not now, not now.
May one inquire where His Highness spent the night?
In a ditch.
A ditch? Where?
Over there.
And they didn't beat you?
Beat me? Certainly they beat me.
The same lot as usual?
The same? I don't know.
When I think of it, all these years, but for me, where would you be? You'd be nothing more than a little heap of bones at the present minute, no doubt about it.
And what of it?
It's too much for one man.
What is there so extraordinary about it? Qua sky. It is pale and luminous like any sky at this time of day, at this time of year. In these latitudes, when the weather is fine, an hour ago, roughly, after having poured forth ever since, say, 10 o'clock in the morning, tirelessly torrents of red and white light, it begins to lose its effulgence, to grow pale, pale, ever a little paler, until, poof, finished, it comes to rest. But behind this veil of gentleness and peace, night is charging and will burst upon us. Pop. Just like that. Just when we least expect it. And that's how it is on this bitch of an earth. given the existence as uttered forth in the public works of Puncher and Votman, of a personal god, quack, 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 with white beard, quack, 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 outside time, without extension, who from the heights of divine apathia, divine athambia, divine aphasia, loves us dearly with some exceptions for reasons unknown, but time will tell. And suffers, like the divine Miranda, with those who for reasons unknown, but time will tell, are plunged in torment, plunged in fire, whose fire flames, if that continues, and who can doubt it will, fire the firmament, that is to say, blast hell to heaven!
It was a very physically active production. I mean,
Alan Mandel played in the San Francisco production of Waiting for Godot, which went to San Quentin prison in 1957. That event inspired Rick Clucci, an inmate at the time, to found the San Quentin Drama Workshop.
that's right, yes. It was a call that came to the theater office, and it was a man named George Poultney. And George was the equity deputy in San Francisco. And he was also a deputy marshal, who was responsible for taking prisoners to and from the prison. And he called and said, do you think you guys would be interested in doing a play at the prison at San Quentin? And I said, well, it sounded like a fascinating idea. And I said I would check with the other people here, with Jules Irving and Herbert Blau. And they all agreed that, yes, it would be a very interesting idea. I was intrigued. I'd never been to a prison. And I called Poultney back and said, yes, we're very interested in coming. And he said, there are a few restrictions. He said, there are no women allowed. And I said, oh, well, we'd have to find a play that didn't have any women. He said, it would have to be something that was simple, that is, scenically, because they didn't have a real stage. They would build a platform and deliver for us what they wanted, you know, something that wasn't complicated as far as lights were concerned. Well, the only thing we had at the time was Waiting for Godot. I must say also at that time it was called Waiting for Godot. The reason I call it Waiting for Godot is that's what Beckett calls it. And so that's why it changed. But that was the only play that we had that didn't have any women in it. It was a small cast and a single set, unit set. I think what was fascinating was when we came that night, and it was done in the large dining hall at the prison, and I think there were about maybe 1,200 inmates. Herb Blau got up to talk to the inmates. And it was interesting because when we came in, there was a jazz band playing. It was a prison jazz band playing. The inmates all came in, and of course they were wearing blue jeans and blue work shirts. And shows you how naive I was. I was expecting stripes. I had no idea. They looked like students, you know, or nothing unusual about that, except that that's what was so unusual for me, was that they were wearing jeans like everybody else I knew, and blue shirts. And Herb Blau got up and explained to them that this play, you know, had engendered a great deal of controversy. And in fact, it was interesting. I think in New York, when it had been done, it didn't work well when it was done in New York after the Miami production, which didn't work well either. New York had advertised it as a play for 20,000 intellectuals. So the people, the officials of the prison, I think, were quite concerned about this. They thought maybe they'd made the wrong choice. Since it was all we had and we were eager to do it, everyone was excited about it. Herb explained to them that although it was controversial, to think of it in terms of that jazz band and what jazz was, that there was a theme running through and there were riffs played off of the theme, but it always came back to the theme. He didn't tell them, hey, who Godot was, because he doesn't know, and as Beckett says, if he knew, he would have said so. They listened very attentively to what Herb had said, and then the play began, and it was rapt attention that started off with bursts of laughter right at the beginning. The response finally, I mean, during Lucky's speech, it just stopped, the show just stopped, and they were cheering and stomping. It was the kind of response that you, I suppose, had hoped the play would receive with any audience. It was a joyous experience for all of us involved. Interesting, because in that dining hall, I think they had these sort of like catwalks way up along the dining hall, and there were guards there with their rifles ready, standing there with them, holding them, so that it was, for us, it was an extraordinarily unusual situation in which to perform. But by the time the play had finished, they were stomping and cheering. It was the kind of ovation you dream about. And they didn't have to applaud. I mean, they didn't have to like it, but they understood it. They understood immediately what that play was about for them, that it was about waiting, which they knew all about, and what we do while we're waiting. And as a matter of fact, lines in the play became catchphrases for the inmates. The warden was referred to as Pozzo, and any guy taken out in chains from death row or wherever the last visit was lucky. I mean, they had no problem with identifying any of the characters, and they were Gogo and Dee Dee, yeah, most of them. So it was, that's what I remember very quickly. You know,
Quite an extraordinary experience.
we didn't come down, let me tell you, for days afterward.